Attention.
Region Review.
The Raging Cajuns will be a source of pride for this university, for the alumni, fans, and donors as we achieve success in the classroom, in the competitive arena, and in the community.
It's about to get really fun.
We're looking for dudes that will stand up. Well, Coach, let me tell you today, I'm here and I'm ready to stand up. And I challenge you, Raging Cajun Nation, to stand up with us. Stand up with us. Let's lock hand in hand and let's walk through the gates of Omaha.
Hey, I love y'all boys. Let's grind every day starting today. Let's do it. Y'all ready? Alert! Ready? Who's that team ready? Who's that team ready? Yes, sir.
I got one thing to say right here. Cajuns win!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Raging Review podcast. It's official as we kick off season 7 of this great endeavor of Raging Review. I'm Jerry, joined by Nick. Nick, Happy New Year. Well, Happy New Year for Raging Review, at least. How are you?
That was weird. Yeah, it is a new season for Raging Review. Excited to be back. Look, we've been talking about this for what, a month? And it's just everybody's schedule gets crazy. I don't know about you, but this summer itself was crazy for me. It was nuts and stuff going on, stuff still going on. So glad we finally got to get together. I think it'll probably be easier once we get it back into the groove of things. But as always, we're already seeing some great participation from our folks on the Twitter, the X Spaces and Facebook and YouTube. So, that's what makes us all worth it, man, is being able to connect with other fans like ourselves. By the way, drinking some alcohol-free wine on a weeknight. This is, it's basically grape juice, but we're going to call it alcohol-free wine because that's what it is.
And got you some of that virgin wine tonight.
There you go.
Anyway, guys, it's a pleasure being back here for another season, as Nick mentioned. 7 seasons, man. It seems like just yesterday we were kicking things off and growing this thing. And, of course, we'll be here. This is it. We'll be here from now until, the end of May, early June, depending on what the spring sports, or should I say the diamond sports, do. We were here for quite a while. Our season ended a little bit later than we have liked because of some of the drama that unfolded with softball, with the coaching change. Great things happening, though, around the campus and around UL. I want to welcome back all of the students back to campus, back to school. Hope you enjoyed your summers. Hope you got your beach chairs packed up. Hope you had some fun on vacations and stuff. But now it's time to get down to business, starting with this weekend. Louisiana Raging Cajuns opening up their football season against the Grambling Tigers. But before we talk about that, Nick, let me ask, what did you do this summer? How was your summer?
Summer was great, man. Spent a lot of time in the pool. I'm darker than I look right now. I got the lighting. Look, every year that we do this stream, the first stream, something doesn't work for me. And today about 20 things didn't work, including my background. So you got to see the behind the scenes shows of Raging Review in Houston, Texas. But did a lot of swimming, did a lot of hanging out with friends and neighbors and such. Didn't do anything too crazy. Did nothing wild, just pretty mild because so much was going on really with work and that type of thing. But got to spend some time with family. In fact, I went there a couple weeks ago. We'll be back. Look, maybe we'll talk about this later in the show. Might do a live broadcast from the Tulane game. That could be fun. So a lot of things in the works, but basically had a lot of relaxation and ready to get kind of back into the swing of things. You don't realize, and I have the Astros, right? So there's a lot going on with the Astros and the Summer Olympics. But man, I miss college baseball, and I really, really missed football season. And it seems like we blinked and we're here. So all around, just that.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Like whenever we got the final out in the College Station Regional for baseball, I just felt like that was kind of the trigger that made me want to just unwind for the next few months. I know we did our wrap up episode, and I know we talked about, we kind of reviewed the year. And then in comes June. And before you know it, my family and I, we're taking beach trips and we're seeing pictures of people on vacation and things like that. And we just kind of kick back and enjoy the summer. Of course, I watched the Euro Cup this year. As some people know, I'm an England fan, and England made it to the final. Couldn't quite make it. Spain was able to get the best of the three Lions, but it was fun to watch. Also, the Olympics this season was fun. It has some really great events there in Paris, but it's so much so much happened over the summertime with my family in a good way. My daughter's growing up. My wife got to enjoy her time off for the summer. And so we were able to take a trip or two and visit with family. And, we have some things going on in the private life and a good things going on. So that's going to be changing pretty soon and happening pretty soon. So a lot of activity between now and the next couple months, but overall, it was great to kind of unwind. I'm not going to lie. We got thrown a curveball whenever Coach Jerry Glasgow decided to go off to Texas Tech. And luckily for us, we made A+ hire in Allison Habits. Kudos to Dr. Brian Maggard in the athletic department on that hire. That was a great hire. I was actually coming back from the beach whenever she got the job. So that was good to see. And I was able to go to the press conference, and it was a great turnout. So things are moving forward there. Another thing I wanted to say over the summer, Nick, was the epiphany and emergence of NIL, especially the Crew Alon. We've talked about over the past year or so how, we haven't really made as big of a push as we think we should with Crew Alon. And then all of a sudden we've made a blitzkrieg of Crew Alon. And I think now that we have our staff in place, and I think now that after Coach Jerry Glasgow had left, and one of the main reasons for him leaving was NIL, and I've noticed there is a big push, which is great. I think that's necessary in the world today. I got invited, Nick, to a baseball meeting. All of the fans or should I say, Diamond Club members, as well as baseball alumni, they've really, really made a big push because of the success we had in baseball. And so to all our fans out there, I know a lot of you hold your nose to NIL, but there are some initiatives out there, or should I say initiative-based models for our players and student athletes for NIL that I think could be beneficial to everybody. So if you can, try to do what you can to give to NIL, or should I say Crew Alon, because, that's the world today we live in. And unfortunately, we just have to learn how to evolve. So, it's one thing to take a break from college sports over the summer, but when a lot of that news of NIL came out, I noticed the athletic department really, really stepped up and tried to get Crew Alon really, really going, especially now that it's a third party, of course. But I got to give kudos to everybody involved with that, because I have seen the efforts there. And look, we got to keep up. We just have to keep up.
But okay, so that's great. I appreciate the cheerleading. However, we said this, you said it, we said this a year ago, how important it was for NIL to be a thing. We were all down on it a little bit. Reality has set in since then, the $10 promotion per month. I signed up for it. I think that's great. Great start. We are 12 months behind where we should be. And that's upsetting to me, because we sat here and we argued for the fact that we had somebody running NIL, and it just kind of went by the wayside. It wasn't really a focus of importance. And then you have one of your top coaches depart and specifically say it's because you didn't support me in NIL, and all of a sudden it's a big focus. Now, am I glad we're paying attention now? 100%. But we're about 12 months too late on that. We got Sunbelt schools that are way ahead of us right now. And God forbid we're trying to compete with Power 5 schools that are stealing our players and all that stuff. So yes, I am glad that we're there, but we're still 12 months behind. How are we going to make up for that lost time? And that's what I look for out of the leaders in this administration, is that I appreciate them finally taking this seriously. But again, we said this a year ago and it fell on deaf ears. We were just being too negative. And then all of a sudden, here we are making a huge push for NIL. So again, I don't want to poo-poo on the idea that we're doing great in NIL right now and that we're making that push, but they've got a lot of making up to do, because we're about a year behind, and we had it starting to roll when everybody was kind of testing the waters. Let's just hope this isn't something else that kind of just falls by the wayside and then move on to the next thing, because this is of huge importance, as you mentioned.
Well, it's better now than never. And look, we can talk about how we kind of missed the 8 ball a little bit and how we could have done more. But you know what? At least it's almost like the person who almost misses the train and they're chasing the train down as it's leaving the track, and they finally were able to jump back on the train, even though everybody else is pretty much settled in. We're kind of huffing and puffing right now, getting on the train, and I'm glad. But the good news is we're on the train, and so I'm going to just be more optimistic about it, because I think I'm glad that we actually acknowledge the fact that it's real and it's not something you can blow off. It's not something that you can ignore. And in order for us to keep up with the Joneses, we have to participate, and the fans have to participate, and people need to realize that this is college sports today. Now, we all have free will. Fans can say, you know what, this is not what I want to do. This is not what I'm all about. I'm just not interested, and just go to the games and support the team. That's fine. But if you want to compete even against your peers, if you look at what Southern Miss is doing for baseball, if you look at what other schools around the Sun Belt are doing, whether it's JMU or Old Dominion or some of these schools that just naturally have more money than us, they're making a push for it. So we do have to keep up. And I just hope that the initiatives as well as the business model for it is effective enough to where our fans can get involved.
Now, I will say, I am glad they're finally asking, because that is something that we talk about all the time in the past, is that we just don't ask people for money. We just expect it to show up. So I do appreciate those in charge of the administration getting out there, being in front of it, being on television, because look, let's face it. We say it over and over that the X app is great. Facebook is great. You can put all that on there, but we have an older generation of fans that you have to connect to them through other forms of media, such as radio and television. And I'm glad to see, when I was in Lafayette, I saw Dr. Maggard on television talking about this stuff. It's time. And I'm glad that we have a face to it. But I still think have a little bit of excitement to generate in the community. And hopefully with the way this football season goes, if it goes as it should go, we will generate that excitement.
Well, here's the cool hard facts about it. And I'm glad you brought that up, at the fact that, they are doing something about it now. But the cold hard facts are simple. We lost our softball coach, probably our most successful coach up to date, because of NIL. He left. He just said, I can't compete to reach the goals I want to reach without NIL. And if you look at Coach Matt Deggs, for example, I mean, look, the things I heard in that meeting were jaw-dropping for me. For example, there's schools out there that are offering 6 figures to players that don't really play. Like the bigger schools are just throwing cash out at players to just say, hey, come on our roster and we'll give you a shot. Players that really aren't even developed, should I add. I mean, that's how far it's gotten. And then how do we compete with that, right? No, I'm not saying, we're going to be able to produce 6 figures of cash. But what I will say is a lot of these players, surprisingly, not all of them want to chase the bag to where, oh, if I don't make $200,000 or $300,000, I'm not going to this school. Some of these players, especially our baseball team, they were okay to just making a little bit of money and getting rewarded with some incentives. And so if you can create that model that'll be just enough for them to stay and then play under the tutelage of a Matt Deggs or an Allison Habits in softball, the rest will take care of itself. And I think that's definitely the model we need to push. Like I said, the model that they're trying to push here is very incentivized based for our players. In other words, let's say if you have a good GPA, you make this much money. If you player of the week, you get this much money. If you're all conference, you get this much money. It's not just, hey, I'm signing with you and I want this much money. No, you got to earn it. And that's one thing that Coach Deggs is pushing for baseball. If you want to look, we'll give you your money for NIL, but you got to earn it. I think if you do that and you can play under that system, we can recruit athletes to compete under that system. We're not just going to get a bunch of entitled players to want to win here. So if you do that and create a model, I think that could be that. To me, that attracts people like that. To me, as a fan, I'll help you out with that. As a fan, I'm not just going to throw money at somebody just because they have a 4-star next to their recruiting status.
Yeah, but I think a couple of things on that. I think when you have a Deggs team, that he is coaching to a very specific type of player, and while NIL is going to be important, to some of them, I think most of them are there are on the team and stay on the team because they're a specific type of player that he's recruiting to. It's a gritty, hard-nosed, water hose boy kind of guy. Now, once he develops them, will they go somewhere else because of NIL? Again, like you said, if you incentivize it, then that makes it a little bit easier to keep them in the system. A little bit tougher in football, but so far I like what I have seen out of Dez, because it's kind of the same thing. He's not paying guys to come here, but once they're here, we're going to retain you. But the thing that, and this is so true out of NIL, you don't have to give $100 a month to make this successful. You don't have to give a $5,000 donation to NIL. If you give a $10 a month donation, if you give a $5 a month donation, they will take anything. That grows. That's a start. They will take anything. And again, it's a matter of preference. Some fans won't give to it. That's fine. But I think the way that college sports is evolving, you're starting to see priority points being tied in not only to foundation giving, but also to NIL. And I think we're going to have to adapt and follow that model as well, because right now you're giving money to give money. But I think once you tie that into an incentive-based program for fans, then I think that makes it a little bit easier and more palatable to give.
Agreed. And I think also too, now that you have NIL and you have to be able to tie that in with, say, for instance, the RCAF model, that fans are going to be kind of at a crossroads on what do I give to and what's more important to me. And I do think that business model and the way you advertise that is going to be very important. It's going to be imperative that we talk about messaging. It's going to be very important to get that message out, especially with, say, for instance, RCAF, right, where you have to give all these different levels of giving to get certain perks. Well, RCAF's big thing now is facility enhancements, right? They're trying to do the clubhouse for baseball. They're doing the football stadium. So that's what they're trying to raise money for, as well as an RCAF member getting benefits for your tickets. With NIL, it's strictly the incentive-based model for the paying players. So, or giving players a little bit of a, I guess you could say a fan per diem, if you will. But so the message is going to be very important, like you said, between the foundation and NIL, because then again, Crew Alon is a third party. The universities cannot officially tie themselves to these initiatives under their tutelage. It has to be third party. Now they can have liaisons, but they can't actually come in and say, okay, we're making this decision based off of blah, blah, blah. Crew Alon is actually separate. So that's an interesting model. And I know that the NCAA is changing that really soon, where I think they're going to bring that under the university, which is a totally different subject for later. But no, it's going to be interesting. And all we do is encourage fans to read up on it, learn about our models. Don't look at what Texas is doing, buying Lamborghinis for players. We're not going to do that. But at the same time, I do think we do have models in place to where if our fans study it and they're able to communicate it, which I have to give credit, Nick, baseball, softball, football, I've noticed a lot more meet and greets around Acadiana that we've been talking about for the last 2 years. They are doing that and they're educating our fans on these things. So I give a kudos to everybody involved pushing that. That's very important. And they're finally doing that. But here's the key. Keep doing it. If somebody doesn't show up at your event in Crowley or Abbeville, don't stop. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep going to these communities and reaching out to our fans and educating them about this and getting and just get them involved. That's what they want. Get them involved. Keep doing it.
They're doing what we said they should be doing, like you said, for the last 2 years. So thanks for listening to us. I'm tired of talking about NIL. Can we talk about football, Jerry?
Let's talk about football. Let's do it. All right. So before we do, should we do sponsors?
If you want to do sponsors, bro.
Let's do sponsors.
Hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining Rage and Review for another weekly episode. We'd just like to encourage you to patronize our great sponsors like Dr. Brett Venable and Recovery Chiro Med. Have you been in a car accident or hurt yourself lifting on the job? Are you having neck pain or back pain, but really don't want to deal with a long, drawn-out process? Then call the chiropractor Raging Cajun athletes use for their neck and back pain, Dr. Brett Venable. The bottom line is, you just need to feel better. You need to get better quickly. That's where Dr. Brett Venable comes in to make all the difference. Dr. Venable and his integrated team of rehab, chiropractic, and medical doctors have 3 locations in Acadiana to serve you: Opelousas, New Iberia, and of course, main office in Lafayette. Dr. Brett Venable is one of very few chiropractors recognized by the state of Louisiana as a chiropractic specialist. He is also the only chiropractor in the Cajuns Healthcare Alliance and the only chiropractor on the board at Tulane School of Professional Advancement. Before you start to stress about the process, remember, this is exactly why you pay for car insurance. These situations are exactly why you carry workman's comp. There's no need for a court date. Your first call should be to Dr. Brett Venable and his great team at Recovery Chiro Med. No hassle, no waiting, and quick relief. Come and find out what our Raging Cajun athletes and over 10,000 Acadiana residents already know. For more information, call the Lafayette office at 337 988-2188 or visit recoverychiromed.com. recoverychiromed.com. We'd like to thank Dr. Brett Venable for being an RCAF member and the exclusive chiropractic sponsor of the Raging Review podcast. Also, a huge thank you to Absolutely Embroidery and More. We know how much Cajun Nation loves their gear. At Raging Review, we get our gear from Miss Phyllis Thibodeau and the team at Absolutely Embroidery and More. Absolutely has a massive inventory of Raging Cajun apparel to choose from. If you can't find something you like, Absolutely can make something you'll like right there in the shop. And if your creation proves to be a popular item with customers, Absolutely will give you a little incentive for helping out with the cause. Bring in your vermilion and white shirts, hats, shorts, socks, dresses, jackets, sweaters, or whatever garment you need to represent the Cajuns. Absolutely also offers customized embroidery services to promote your business on hats, polos, uniforms, etc. Absolutely rounds out the collection with an assortment of exciting accessories for the Lady Cajuns in your life. Earrings, headbands, bracelets, clutches, and bags are just a few options to complete her spicy look. Pass by 3010 Collie Saloon Road in Lafayette and see the wonderful ladies at Absolutely Embroidery and More today. They'll treat you to quality Cajun clothing, complimentary gourmet cookies, and a friendly conversation. And if you're an out-of-town Raging Cajun, visit them on the web at absolutelyembroideryandmore.com or visit their social channels on Instagram or Facebook. There, you'll find pictures of what the ladies are putting on the shelves in real time. Once again, folks, please support local businesses and please support businesses that support the Raging Cajuns and especially the Raging Review podcast.
Once again, thanks to our sponsors, Dr. Brett Venable, Recovery Chiromed, as well as Absolutely Embroidery and More. They are local, support local. Give them some love since they give love here at Raging Review. So, Nick, you asked for it. You're going to get it. Preseason football. Well, now it's officially football season, but I still consider
football.
I kind of consider it preseason still because we haven't kicked off yet. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the expectations going into this year. Raging Cajun football is under its third year under the Mike Desormeaux era. Again, they officially kick off this Saturday against Grambling. And the last 2 years, there's a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda, right? We've shown a lot of promise in many ways. We've had some great highlights, but at the same time, we've also come up short a few times. We're 6-7. We've had 6-7 records the past 2 seasons. We've lost some key players to the portal these last couple of years. But there's something about this upcoming season where, whether it's returning starters or just maturity in the system and the process under the Desormeaux era, where there is a little bit of optimism, but it's kind of a wait and see game. There's a fun stat I wanted to bring up to you, Nick, and I wanted everybody to hear this because it's very important. Under the Billy Napier era in his last 2 seasons, okay, 2020 and 2021, both years, in 2020, we won a share of the conference title. In 2021, we won the conference title. Both years we finished 15th and 16th, respectively, in the college football polls, or should I say, yeah, the polls. 23-2 record combined in 2020 and 2021, and double-digit win seasons. Do you know what our record was combined in those 2 years in games decided by 7 points or less, Nick? Just take a guess. There were 12 games that were decided by 7 points or less. What was our record? If you take a guess.
11-1.
11-1. That's correct. 11-1. We learned how to finish close games under the Napier era in those last 2 seasons. And that's why we were 10-1 and 13-1 respectively. I'm sorry. So that would make us, 23-1. That's correct. Yeah, 23-1. Or 23-2. 23-2. In 2022 and 2023, under Mike Desormeaux, he has a 13-14 overall record if you include the New Orleans Bowl win after Billy Napier left in 2021. With those 6-7 seasons, do you know what? We've had 11 games where games were decided by 7 points or less. Do you know what our record is in those 11 games combined?
Definitely under 500. 3-8.
2-9.
Well, it was close.
2-9. That's your difference, Nick. That's your difference. In 2020 and 2021, you finished the season with one loss each year, but yet you won all of your games except for one in games decided by 7 points or less. Again, you're 2-9 these last two seasons, which have turned into 6-7 records. I mean, just last year alone, the Southern Miss game, Jacksonville State, and there's, I think, one other game we lost by 3. Georgia State. Yeah, Georgia State, we lost by 3. We lost by a touchdown to Old Dominion. And I forgot the other one. But just to give you an idea how close those games were, we were 10 points or 11 points away from a 9-4 season. We were that close. I mean, that's literally a touchdown to field goal away from a 9-4 season.
Well, and I look, I'm not gonna make an excuse for those teams. I will say, I mean, how many quarterback injuries have we had in the last 2 years? You know, you brought in Zion. That was an experiment. And then our defense under Lamar, I like Lamar Morgan, but his defense was soft. I mean, we played zone defense and we gave up lots of yards and we paid for it. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. So I think defensively, Jim Salgado, is that how you say his name? Coach Salgado comes from Buffalo. Am I not mistaken?
He's got an NFL experience. Yes.
Yeah.
He coached about 5 or 6 years for Buffalo's secondary, I believe.
So I think the difference and the main thing that we need success on this year is going to be defensively. I think offensively, and we'll go into position players later. I think offensively, between our quarterback, our receivers, and our running backs, our experienced offensive line, we're going to be in good shape. The question is, you know, I mean, when we played the University of Buffalo, I mean, we scored 40 somewhat points, but gave up 30 somewhat points and almost let them come back on us. We can't do that again this year and be successful. And this is a critical year for Dez. Look, if Dez, you could say Dez needs to win 7 games this year. I think he needs to win 8. And Dez knows that. He's talked about it publicly. He said this is a year he's got to make some significant progress. 6-7 ain't going to cut it. 7-6, I'm not sure that'll cut it. We've got to see some significant progress this year. But year 3 in his system, new defensive coordinator, all of the experience we have coming back, I think we're in good shape. And the fact nobody seems excited. There doesn't seem to be this aura that we used to have where we just get so pumped for game 1. Like you said, there are a lot of question marks. It's not in the ability of the players that we have because we return so many starters. It's going to be in the coaching and the ability, as you said, for us to close out games. It'll be big defensively for us to be able to make some key stops that we haven't been able to make in the last couple of years. So that to me is going to be a big key for us is defensively. What does our scheme look like? And can we get the big stops when we need them? Again, because look, I can look at the schedule right now and we'll talk about the schedule. There are 4 games I look at and I said, those are all very easily losses for us, you know, and that puts you at 8-4. You can't drop any other games or then you're 7-5. So you look at the schedule and say, yeah, we've got a pretty decent schedule, but then there are four games that you look at immediately and say, we can lose all 4 of those. So again, defensively, I think you need to be better this year. And I'm hoping Salgado is the answer to our woes in the defensive side.
I think the theme of this year's team is finish. To me, finish is the key word. You got to learn how to finish games. I mean, last year we didn't finish, and that turned us into a 6-7 football team. Same thing the year before. There were no games really last year where a team got away from us and blew us out. We were in every game. We just couldn't finish. Like you said, even the Buffalo game, you're up by 3 scores in the fourth quarter, and you almost lose the game because you decide to take your foot off the gas and play conservative. The Jacksonville State game, you had so many opportunities to close that game in the bowl, and you didn't, and you lost. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Houston 2 years ago, we should have beaten Houston. They shouldn't have been in the game.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I was so dejected walking out of the New Orleans Bowl last year, losing to Jacksonville State. I was so that one hurt.
Well, here's the thing: you screw around again, and you lose to Kennesaw State in their first FBS game at home this season.
Yeah,
you can't screw around.
No, you cannot lose that game. Especially, I had the chance to go on the syndicate Sunbelt show, which by the way, give them a like. They do a really good job. They invited me on to talk about the Cajuns, and that's one of the things I said with the out of conference schedule. We're officially the first FBS team that will that Kennesaw State will host. We're their first FBS home game, or the first FBS team they host as a home game. So they're going to be emotionally high for that game and excited for that game. We can't go in slacking around because that's a perfect trap game for us. I don't think many people see that. I mean, that game actually kind of scares me a little bit. And I'm going to tell you, if you drop that game, like if you drop a game like that after this week, I mean, it's going to be very hard to recover because you get a bye and then Tulane comes to town and then you got to go to Wake Forest. So,
oh, and by the way, App State's coming home, and then you got to also play at Texas State. I mean,
right?
You know, that's like dropping an early season game to somebody like Akron or ULM, and then trying to climb your way out of it. I don't think this program that we've seen the last 2 years, and it's the same program, has the ability to claw themselves back from being in an early season hold. Now, is it the end of the world if they lose it? No, they still have a lot of football to play, but it makes it a lot more difficult, and it puts a lot of doubt in not only a fan's mind, but also your player's mind. That makes it a tough locker room.
So I'm very interested to see starting Saturday what our scheme, what are we going to do schematically, what our scheme is going to be, how we utilize our running backs, because our rushing attack should be pretty good. We're very deep in running backs this year. I mean, probably one of the deepest we've ever been in a long time.
And I would put that. They moved. I didn't know they moved Williams to a linebacker. So that's even with moving Williams to linebacker, you still got, you got Dre. Then behind him, you got Zylan Perry. You got
Bill Davis.
Bill Davis, right? So, I mean, those are three guys that have all shown signs of greatness. And last year you had Zion, who he was carrying the ball a lot of the time, so they didn't get as many touches as they could have. So I'm looking forward to that rushing attack this year. I think we've got a lot of depth there, as you mentioned.
I'm kind of curious about the receiving core. I know Harvey Broussard's coming back. What have you noticed about our receiving core, Nick?
I think, again, obviously losing Peter LeBlanc is going to be tough for us.
Yeah, it hurts.
And then you're also losing the tight end. His name is escaping me right now.
Neil Johnson.
Neil Johnson. You're losing him as well. So those are two big losses for the wide receiver core or the receiving core. But you got a wide receiver, Jaden Johnson. He's a sophomore. They look for some big things out of him. Lance Lejeune comes back this year. We haven't seen him in a while. Yeah.
Good to see him back.
It's good to see him back. You got Terrence Carter at tight end. Mm-hmm. Harvey Broussard. We've seen some nice flashes of greatness from him. Kadarius Wade, Jacob Bernard, man. I think Jacob's going to have a big year. Look, I've been playing. He's been solid for me in NCAA 24 this year. I mean, he's been blowing it up for me. So I look for Jacob to do some good things. But these are all guys that aren't going to be flashy. They're not going to be, a Peter LeBlanc that you expect to catch every pass. But I feel like you're spreading that talent out among several guys who can all catch the ball and who can all get you first downs in key situations. So I think at depth at wide receiver, that and running back may be two of our deepest areas this season. I really look forward to that. In addition to, we're talking about the offensive line. I think we got we're 9 or 10 deep on the offensive line. So offensively, as long as we're not conservative, which I don't think we will be, when you got a guy like Ben, which, by the way, that was big news this week. Ben is going to be our starting quarterback this season.
Yep.
When you got Ben behind center and you've got options there, right? And you got guys who can run. You've got a deep stable of running backs. You've got a deep stable of wide receivers. Then you can do a little play action. And that's when things get a little more interesting. And Ben is really good in play action. And he's really good in those situations. And don't sleep on him running with the ball either. I mean, we've seen that a couple of times where he's able to pick up monster yardage because all the guys are covered and they're trying to keep our running backs, they're trying to make sure that they're keeping a spy on them. So I don't know. I'm excited about the offense this year. I think definitely offense is going to be a little bit ahead of defense. But again, I don't know defensively what we're going to see. We got a new defensive coach. What is his scheme? What is he running? Are we still running the same packages? I'm sure we're not. But that's what I'm excited to see is going to be on the defensive side this year. But offensively, I think we're going to be fine.
Well, I mean, you look at our offensive line 2 years ago, we lacked depth because we had a lot of youth. But I mean, you look at guys like King McGowan, you look at guys like Caden Morrow. I mean, you got George Jackson, Jax Harrington coming back. Seems like he's been here since forever. You've got Zay Alexander, who was a transfer, I believe, from Mississippi State, if I'm not mistaken. You got Landon Burton. You've got AJ Gilly, who's a preseason all-conference, Sunbelt all-conference.
I just
player.
have a feeling AJ is going to blow it up this year, man.
Well, I mean, you've
really
got so much. You have depth. You have depth to complement that rushing attack. So, I mean, I expect our offense to move the ball just fine. And to what you just said about Ben Woldridge, of course, Coach Mike Desimo announcing that Ben will be the starting quarterback this year. Look, I just want to say, okay, whether it's on the message boards or social media, I know fans have their favorite quarterback. And look, we love Chandler and we love Ben. All right. I personally could care less who the quarterback is. Just win us football games. If Ben can do it and the coaches put their trust in Ben to do it, go Ben. If they believe in Chandler that can do it and were to name Chandler the starter, go Chandler. Just win us football games. I just want to get that across to people, because I know there's some people that are upset because this guy got picked because they're friends of the brother who's friends with the quarterback. And I don't care. I just want to win football games.
Let's not act like basketball fans, guys. It's not a popularity contest, but I know the cousins, friends, all that. I want him to start. I don't care. Look, Ben's the starting. Ben Woldridge is the starting quarterback. I put my support 100% in Ben, just as much as I would with Chandler. And look, we've got some decent quarterback depth. I mean, Daniel Beal from Catholic. You've got I'm drawing a blank from Kansas State. Adrian Lara from Kansas State. Trying to see who else we got. It's kind of stupid how much talent we always have at quarterback. Like we're
deep.
We have like 7 quarterbacks every season.
We got Lunch. Got Lunch from Luncher. He's really good. I mean, we've got some quarterback depth, but again, if Ben can win us football games, go Ben, right? That's all that matters to me. And look, I'm curious. I'm gonna tell you right now, man. The only thing that scares me between Ben and Chandler, both of them, is not necessarily their quarterback play; it's their health. Both have had injuries. I mean, Ben has had 2 season-ending injuries. Chandler has had some injuries. So I hope that Ben can stay healthy. I hope that Ben can stay healthy, and I hope Chandler can stay healthy as well if it's his time to go in. But we might need that quarterback depth this year, Nick. I mean,
well, I
just hope there's no crazy injuries. I hope they're healthy.
Yeah, and plus our offensive line needs to do a good job and protect those guys as well. And I think they know that. I'm not as concerned as the injury thing because we're so deep at quarterback. I just don't want to see a 2 quarterback rotation. I don't want to see one guy go in for 2 series and come out, then you're putting another guy in. And look, if you situationally need to swap them out, that's fine. But I don't want to see swapping out every other drive. That drives me nuts.
Just stick with one quarterback. Stick with one quarterback. Ben's the guy. Stick with him. All right. If something happens, then you put in whoever you need to put in. But right now, if you name Ben Woldridge a starter, Ben Woldridge needs to be there 100% of the time, unless you run some type of option package with Lunch or something. That's the only other way, or unless you run Wildcat. Okay. Just stick with Ben. So Nick, I have to ask, what are your expectations about this football team this year? You did kind of list some of the talents we have. I know with Coach Jim Salgado on defense as a new defensive coordinator, they have some returning talent like Casey Osai's coming back. They've got some depth in the secondary, some depth in the linebacking core. New schemes always take time to adjust, but it seems like from the reports I'm hearing in camp, players are flying to the ball and they're basically, it's a next man up mentality. The expectation, I would assume let's talk about, I guess we'll talk about defense and go into expectations. I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on the defense, basically.
Yeah. I mean, defensively, we got 3 starters returning. We've got Kyron Mims, who is a transfer from Ball State at nose tackle. So I think we're going to be upgraded on our line. again, I mentioned it earlier. We got Terrence Williams that is moving to linebacker this season. You put him with Casey Osai and Cortland Flowers. That's a pretty good linebacker core. Again, I've not seen Williams play linebacker, but I think we're gonna do well in that regard. Defensive backs, I don't know. That's a question mark for me. We're gonna have to see. Again, not only the talent at defensive back, but also the scheme that we play. Are we playing man? Are we playing zone? What are we playing defensively? That'll answer a lot of my questions. So there's a question mark defensively as far as defensive back. But all in all, I think it'll be a step forward. I mean, anybody could see that we had problems at defense. And let's be honest, our defensive backs were gassed by the third quarter because while they were playing zone, they ended up having to cover guys who were flying past them and later in the game. So I think we'll progress forward this season at defense. I look forward to seeing what the Salgado defense looks like. I've not been privy to any practices or getting in there, any scouting reports on what our defense looks like. But to your point about it takes some time for us to adjust, it'll also take time for some teams to adjust. And we're not going to show a whole lot against Grambling this weekend. And I'm certainly don't expect that we'll show a lot against Kennesaw State unless we have to. I mean, Kennesaw State's going to be pumped up. They're ready to play us at home. But I think when we get into the meat of the schedule against teams like Tulane or Wake Forest, App State, I think you're going to start to see us throw some things in there that maybe we didn't do last season. And hopefully that'll pay off. The one thing that we saw under the Napier era that we didn't see under Lamar Morgan was a lot of movement on the line defensively, guys standing up, some guys were down, a lot of chaos to kind of throw the offense off and not know what scheme you're running. And so I'm interested to see if that's something that Salgado will do. Again, you mentioned he had NFL experience. He's obviously got a lot of knowledge there. And sometimes when you're throwing in a new scheme, you have to do some things to give yourself a little bit of an advantage. So I think if we see that early in the season, then we know he's paying attention. We know that maybe the guys need a little bit more work defensively in the first couple of games. But all in all, I look for an improvement and very excited to see what we'll see out of our new defensive coordinator this season.
Yeah, I think we need to mix it up a little bit. And I think, again, one thing that we've always been known to do is we play a lot of guys at one time. Just to give you an example right now, you look at I was looking at the Sunbelt preseason. We've got 3 guys on the second team defense, including Tyrone Lewis as a defensive back, Casey Osai, and Jordan Lawson. Of course, you can't forget about there's so much. We're just so deep. And linebacker, we're so deep in the secondary right now. For example,
we got Cam Whitfield. I mean, you can't forget about him.
Yeah, that's a huge get.
Caleb Anderson,
Caleb Anderson. Yep, Caleb Anderson is definitely somebody I'm looking forward to. I mean, he's got the size. He's tall. He's athletic. Like you said, Kyron Mims. You got Fitzgerald West that came from TSAB recently. You got Chase Edwards, who's a redshirt freshman. Mason Narcisse, he's supposed to have a good year. Again, Jordan Lawson, KJ Riley. I mean, we got some depth, man. That's the thing. We've got some depth. You got Justin Agu from Dutchtown. Lorenzo Dubose. He had so much hype when we recruited him. I'm curious. I mean, he's going to play this year. I expect him to make some highlights. I want to see what he can do because he came here over a lot of schools. You got Keon Martin, who's a big player. Amir McDaniel. I mean,
Tyree Skipper. We've called his name a couple times last season.
We're pretty deep, man.
We're pretty deep on both sides of the ball. That's what I'm saying. We've got depth on both sides of the ball.
Names, man. So I'm curious, and like you said, I guess we probably play a little vanilla this weekend against Grambling, and I want to say that Kennesaw State kind of runs a triple option offense, kind of like what Georgia Tech used to run under Paul Johnson. So that's going to be interesting to see how
being
it's going to be. Get adjusted to that new scheme against them, but you get past them, you get a bye, right? I mean, you hope that they can start the season off right against these two teams to start off pretty nice, and you get a bye week before Tulane. So I think this is a great opportunity these first 2 weeks for just both sides of the ball to really get acclimated. We do have some veteran talent, but when you play under a new scheme, things can change. But I am excited to see that.
Yeah,
it's going to be a lot of fun.
And I'm also excited. So switching to special teams, we had a little bit of success there. The kicker, the punter, what was his Thomas Leo last season drove me absolutely nuts because it seems like we could never kick the ball through the end zone. Because I think he was doing kickoffs last season, could never kick the ball through the end zone. However, we held the return yardage, was one of the best in the country. So obviously we were doing something right. However, kicking the ball out of bounds is never acceptable, period. End of story. We do have a new punter this season. I would assume he'll do kickoff duties as well. I think he's an Aussie. I think Nate Torney is coming in. So I think we've got another Aussie at punter this season. Am I mistaken there? Yeah. Am I right? So, look, I'm a big fan of Aussie punters. They've got great legs, and they've got that Aussie rules football in Australia, and they've got Pro Kick USA. That's always got some great talent coming out of the deep South. So looking forward to seeing what he can do. And then you've got Kenny Almendaris. You don't need to say anything. You want to talk about a guy who's improved so much over his career and just becomes he went from sort of a liability for a little bit to such a great asset on your team. Kenny the kicker is going to be great again this year. So looking forward to seeing what we can do on special teams this year.
Make field goals, deep kickoffs. Don't kick the ball out of bounds and punt and flip the field.
Don't kick the damn dude. Nothing drives. I think that might be the one thing in football that drives me crazier than anything else is kicking the ball out of bounds.
It's careless, man.
It's
really
inexcusable, and you can't explain it.
Just don't. It's pretty simple. Don't kick the ball out of bounds. Don't give them better field position than they already need. But I will say this: I'm surprised. Look, you think college football is going to follow that NFL kickoff rule? What do you think about that NFL kickoff rule?
I hated it at first, and now I'm used to it, I guess, after 3 games, so it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, I think they will. I think eventually you'll see it in college, probably next season. I don't like the 2-minute warning thing. I don't think it's necessary in college football. I don't know why we have a 2-minute warning or call it a 2-minute timeout. I think it's dumb. Right. So that I'm sad that has trickled down to the college game. But no, I do expect. I say I do expect. Yeah, I think eventually you'll see it move down to the college level. I just think safety is going to be a thing for college programs, and eventually they'll just have to do it. And
yeah, no, it's true. It's true. We'll see. I think they're eventually going to evolve with the NFL rules. They're going to eventually follow it, but I do kind of like the regular. I'm a traditionalist. I like the kickoff rules they have now, so I hope they don't really have to.
But I will say it's a lot more exciting than I expected it to be. They have some interesting little quirks in the rules and the way it works, so it's not as terrible as I originally thought. It could work.
No, for sure. So I just want to let's make some season predictions. Let's talk about predictions. So I think this team is anywhere from a 5-win team to a 9-win team, but I think it's going to depend on finishing games. Again, keyword finish. If we give up some leads or start off slow, like last season, and barring any injuries, 5 or 6 win team like the last 2 years. If we find ways to finish games, we could be an 8 or 9 win team easily. Look, Louisiana's actually picked this year. I want to say they were picked 3rd in the West. Preseason media picked them 3rd in the West behind Texas State. GJ Kinney's just turning that into a transfer portal powerhouse. And then Troy, who's number 2, but they do have a new head coach after John Summerall left for Tulane, who will be coming to Lafayette on September 21st. So, and look, they've got a lot to replace, man. Troy is where we were 2 years ago in 2022 when Billy Napier left. It's very, very similar. And if you notice the last 2 seasons, we've played Troy well. Hell, 2 years ago, we should have beaten them. We were up 17-0 at home and lost that game. So, look, if there's a year to catch them, they come to Lafayette this year, it's this year. So Dude, if it's Texas State and Troy in front of us, I think the West is up for grabs. Personally, look,
Yeah,
Southern
I
Miss,
agree.
lost Frank Gore Jr. and Will Hall's on the hot seat now. For some reason, they always find a way to get their season marquee win against us. I think that changes this year, or at least I hope. ULM, they've got a new head coach, and he's actually brought some energy there, but I still think they've got a little bit of an uphill battle to climb to really win at the level they want to win at. And honestly, Arkansas State, I mean, they had a really surprisingly good year under Butch Davis, and they got a really good quarterback, but they're one of those teams that you just don't know what you're going to get with them. You know, they look like they could be a 10-win team, but they give you 6 at the end of the year. Arkansas State's been very unpredictable this year. So honestly, I feel like the West is up for grabs, Nick. I think we have just as much of a chance as anybody to win the West and have a shot. And if we do that, that's a huge improvement just to make the championship game this year.
Yeah, we gotta see something out of this team this year. I think the ceiling is 10-2 if everything goes perfectly right for them. I mean, obviously before a bowl game, I think the floor is 7 wins. We gotta beat Southern Miss this year, man. I mean, those guys can come in with 0 wins, beat us, and act like they're the kings of the world. I'm tired of those guys. Texas State, you know, it's the same thing as last year. They're going to be the kings of the Sun Belt. And then they kind of stumble through a couple of games, including ours, which they still have never beaten us. So I think that's going to be very telling. I think that game's going to be very telling on how the West goes this season. But we still got to get through, again, Southern Miss, which has been a thorn in our side for a little bit. Look, I think gut tells me we're going to have 8 wins this season. But again, we could easily have 7 wins. We could easily have 6 wins. I don't see us going 5-8 or 5 and whatever. I don't see us being a 5-win team. I think our low ball for the way that the schedule kind of sets up. I think 7 wins is going to be our floor this year. Does 7 wins give Dez another year? I don't know. I think he needs 8 wins this year. I really do. And I think that's the mark that we need to get this year. And am I going to be happy with 8 wins? I mean, I'll be happier than I was going 6 and 7 2 years in a row.
I'll take 8 wins. I'll take 8 wins gladly.
Yeah. So
sure.
Look, I think we need an 8-win season. But again, I think our ceiling is 10, and I think that's very doable. It just depends, again, without seeing a whole lot in fall and spring, and without knowing what our defense is going to look like. I will err on the side of caution and say we get 8 wins this season.
I think, honestly, Nick, to answer your question about what's the ceiling and what's the floor for Dez, I think it all depends on who we lose to or who we beat and how we beat them or how we lose to them. For example, last year, you lost by 3 to a lot of teams, but they were teams that you should have beaten. Like Southern Miss was a 3-9 team last season, and you gave a game away to them, a game that you really should have won. I mean, you outplayed them all game and you lost. Same thing with the Jacksonville State game. We should have won that game. And so, you know, there's been fans at times I've talked to that are kind of like, man, you're a little harsh on the football team last year. And my reaction is simple. I don't like going 6 and 7. Do you? Especially 2 years in a row. I can't justify that. I can't sit here and say that's okay because it's not. And the way we lost some of these games were just unnecessary. Now, this year, do I think is Dez in trouble with a 6 and 7 season? No, I don't think so. I do think the fans will have enough. 7 wins, it's a winning season. Unless you make the championship.
I disagree.
7 wins is a winning season, Nick. I just don't see a coach at this level being on the hot seat for that, especially if it's an improvement over the last couple of years. Now, it depends.
You're saying if he gets 6 wins, we have another losing season this season that he gets another year?
Yeah, I do.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't see that happening. You're talking about the current era of college sports where you have to keep kids engaged, and we don't have a huge NIL deep pockets, and we're deep as hell this year. And so to me, there's no excuse you don't have a winning record. So I don't think 6-7 cuts it.
I do. And the thing is, it's not that it's not what the fans want, because I'll tell you what the fans think about a 6-7 record. Fans aren't going to be happy with the 6-7 record. It's just, they're not. But I just don't see a coach going anywhere winning 6 games unless it's a much bigger school than us, like in the SEC or somewhere like that wins nonstop or constantly.
Well, if that's the case, we need to raise our expectations, because
I don't disagree.
When you're talking about the fans, will be upset by it. Well, guess who won't be in that shiny brand new stadium on the first game that we open it, when it, Our Lady of Lourdes Stadium, when it's finished? Guess who won't be there? The fans. So,
yeah,
I mean, if they want to retain him for another year, that's fine, but you're just delaying the inevitable. I mean, I think 3 years is enough. I don't know. I don't see a 6. Look, and Dez said it. Now, I'm not saying, you can say I'm bashing Dez. I'm not bashing Dez. I want him to have a 10-win season this season. I'm looking reality-wise. To me, we have got to, poo-poo or get off the pot. It's time to make a decision. Did we make the right decision 3 years ago, or did we not? We cannot go another year in this world of NIL, in this world of deep pockets at P5 programs. I mean, our peers are starting to pass us up in those regards. And then you're bringing a coach that hasn't had a winning record in 3 seasons back for a 4th season. You're delaying the inevitable, in my opinion. I don't think we can afford to do that.
Now, we'll add on that, and I know Brian Maggard has said this, and I know there's people in administration that have said that because Dez lost so much 2 years ago, and then last year we had to build, and then this year we're rebuilding. This is the year, to me, where year 3 is now. This is Dez's team, if you will. This is Dez. Now, granted, he may have a player or two from the Napier era, but this is his year where his system, his philosophy, his overall culture, aura or culture of this program is it's all full-fledged in him. You don't really have many Napier leftovers or Napier players, as many on the team that'll overtake the overall culture. I mean, this is Dez's team now. We are in his program. So now's the time where he has to they have to prove themselves. I mean, they have to prove themselves. Now, again, I'm telling you that a 6-win season. Now, I'm not saying I'm okay with a 6-win season. I want to, before anybody bashes me going, why would you say that? I'm just telling you reality. And that's the mindset of the administration, that they believe that, Dez got his, he's 2 years to rebuild. And now we're really starting to see with NIL. Now we're starting to really see him in his I guess the word is kind of in his, I'm drawing a blank, Nick. How can I describe it?
You're saying it's his program. You're saying
it's basically his program. Right. Yeah. To where now, we're going to see, in other words, there's optimism there. There's optimism there. And so,
there's been optimism with basketball every season for the last 20 years. And you see where that's gotten us.
No.
To a certain subset of fans. But that was a joke, by the way. That was
all 6 of them? Yeah, all 6 of them. I mean,
but reality has to be, Jerry, if in my job, I'm told year 1, you're taking over for a guy. We get it. You have a lot to do. And then year 2, you don't improve. Well, you're still trying to get your sea legs under you. That's fine. In year 3, if I'm still having a losing season, or if at work I'm still not meeting the expectations, they're going to say, look, this isn't working out. We have to decide, are we going to be a serious football program? You can't have 3 losing seasons in a row and expect to compete in a league like the Sun Belt. So if we have 3 losing seasons in a row, to the administration, are you telling me, oh, well, next year we're going to be good? Well, you've seen the results for 3 seasons. You've seen 2 seasons where you've had to rebuild, and now you have season 3 where you have all your players and you're still having the same results. What gives you any confidence you're going to have the same or better results next year? Oh, and by the way, all your fans are not going to be there for game 1 in your beautiful new stadium. So again, I have a hard time believing that, and I feel like others would say the same thing. I have a hard time believing that having another losing record 3 years in a row in the Sun Belt after being ranked in the top 15 4 years ago is acceptable on any. We got to start setting bigger standards for us. That cannot be acceptable.
And I don't disagree with you. I'm just telling you how administrators think about this. I'm not telling you what's right or that you're
I
right
know
or
you're
wrong.
not, but I'm saying the administrators need to get, you know, we're not an SEC team. We don't have we can't wait for 4 years like Napier, you know, and he's inevitably going to be fired if he doesn't turn it around this year. We can't wait for that extra year for us to be maybe good or maybe not good. You're just setting yourself back another year. And by the way, I will stress again, we're talking about NIL. We want people to give to NIL. That's really tough for us to say, well, yeah, we had 3 losing seasons, but we still want you to give us money because we're hoping year 4 is going to be the year. If you're an administrator and that's the way you work in this program in this time and the way that the current state of affairs is in college football, we're in trouble. That's not a good thing in my opinion.
Well, money talks. And the reality is you're opening up a brand new stadium next season and you have all these suites, you've got all these club seats, and guess what? They're not cheap seats. They're not inexpensive. You're going to pay money to sit there. If you produce another 6-7 or 5-7 season next year, when you open up against Rice or you play McNeese, yeah, you'll attract some fans, but they're not going to stick around if you're playing that type of 500 football.
And if you know how much they're charging for this,
and you're charging for, I mean, again, you can't charge Ruth Chris Steakhouse for a Happy Meal, you know, and people aren't going to pay Ruth Chris prices for a Happy Meal if you produce a Happy Meal. And so I think that you are right about that. I do think that money talks and you have to, you get what you pay for, but if what you pay for is higher than a 5-7 or 6-7 record, it's not about what the administration thinks. The fans are going to tell you by not showing up. You know, we've seen that before. We've seen that in other sports over here. It's true.
Here's the thing. And look, I like Dr. Maggard. I respect him. I don't agree with all of his decisions, and I will say when I don't. But that's the beauty. He does listen, and he does, you know, he listens to feedback. He takes action where needed. So I just want to say that I like Dr. Maggard, but are we a serious program or are we not? Like I understand he's a nice guy. Nice guy got us, you know, Glasgow going to Texas Tech because we didn't take NIL seriously. It's a business. We need to start treating this as a business and not as a fraternity. It's a fraternity. Trust me, among the coaches, they have a fraternity, but we have to start holding all coaches accountable and have them all on the same standard, especially when it comes to the most important money generating program on campus. It's got to be, we got to get this right. We can't screw this up. So 6 wins. That's bad news, man. I mean, I might check out at that point.
The fans aren't going to be happy with it, and the fans are not going to react to it.
And the donors won't.
Well, that's what the fans are the donors. You buy all this nonsense about, well, you know, if you don't have skin in the game and you don't pay this and that, look, buying a ticket is, I mean, yeah, you may not give $10,000 to RCAF, but when you buy a ticket, you buy food, you go to the game, you're a customer and you're somewhat a donor. I mean, you're donating to the program when you give money to concessions and go to football games. You may not give it in the form of an RCAF check, but you still are investing in the program, regardless of whether it's a lot of money or a little money. So, I mean, the crowds tell you, and all this stupidity when I hear about, you know, well, the reason why people don't go to the game, and look, I agree that ESPN Plus plays a huge role in it, but the lack of seating, the lack of crowds that we have had in some of those games is not just because of TV.
App State has ESPN Plus. Texas State has ESPN Plus. Boise State has ESPN Plus. That is an excuse. And that's be better is all I have to say.
Well,
and I know some guy on Rage and Page is going to be, well, why don't you drive the 4 hours every week to come to a game? I know that's coming, right? Because God forbid I'm criticizing something, but the truth of the matter is just be better, because other schools have the same problem and they sell out their stadiums. And I'm not saying we have to sell out. I mean, this year there's really no excuse because you have half a stadium, but there's no excuse why the community doesn't support there are plenty of excuses, and a lot of that blame lies on the university, but it's an FBS football program. We need to do better as fans. And that even accentuates my comments more. 6 wins ain't gonna cut it. We're trying to get fans in the stadium. You can't keep giving a mediocre product and expect things to expand. Now, I want to get off of this because I don't expect this to be 6 wins. I expect it to be 8 wins this season, and I hope that's the case. But the point of the matter is, we as an athletic department have to decide, are we serious about athletics? And if we are, we have to just stop trying to be the good guy, stop trying to be the nice guy, and we need to start playing like other programs play. And that's, if you don't get the results that we expect and demand, then we need to move on. And it's nothing personal. It's a business.
It's going to sound mean. Nice gets you 800 season tickets sold in the Cajun Dome. Okay. That's what nice gets you. And nice selling 800 season tickets in the Cajun Dome equals no money. Okay. No revenue. So look, you're right. I mean, it's true. And now you got the college football playoff, and guess who has a chance to make the college football playoff if you do things the right way? Us. We do. Now, it's a long shot. It's not easy, but it can be done. So now you have something to play for. Instead of just going to a bowl game, you have a chance to play for the CFP if you play your cards right and win the games you're supposed to win and compete for a conference championship, and the rest may fall where they may. Even if you don't make it, but you're in the conversation, that speaks volumes. That sells your program. So no, my expectations this year, we can be as low as 5-7, or as high. I think the ceiling is probably 9 or 10 wins. I'm going to say 8-4. I'm optimistic. I think if Ben can be healthy a full season, we utilize the weapons on offense on both the passing and the rushing attack that we have. And I think our defense has enough depth against the type of teams we play. I think we could be an 8-4 team. But
yeah, I agree.
The first 4 games are going to tell us a lot. Hell, I think the first 2 games are going to tell us a lot. You got to be 2-0 going into Tulane, and you get a bye going into Tulane at home. Look, if you're able to come out of the first 4 games with a 3-1 record going into conference, I feel really, really good. Yeah. You got to win one of those 2 games between Tulane and Wake Forest. Hell, I think they're both winnable personally, but you got to come out at least 500 at a minimum if you want to show promise in the conference. Because guess what? This ain't your mommy or daddy's Sun Belt. This is a tough conference. You got to go on the road to Texas State. They're gunning for us. I mean, they've never beaten us. You know, I mean, you got to go play. You still got a hot Troy team coming to town. You got a hot App State team coming to town. Both teams played in the conference title game last year. Where else do we go on the road, Nick? We go on the road.
Coastal Carolina.
Coastal.
The COVID chickens. Yeah.
Yeah. We finally get that game in, you know. But we do have we got to go to ULM on the road, which we lost to them 2 years ago. I'm still baffled by that. I mean, look, it's going to be a tough conference slate. Every game is a war now in the Sun Belt, so it'll be interesting. But I'm excited about it.
T-Boy is saying 8 wins is a stretch. I'm with you. 8-4 is what I think will end up, and I think within that there are going to be games that we should win that we lose. So I think we'll drop a game. I mean, I don't want to say we'll drop it to freaking Southern Miss, but we'll drop a game, in my opinion, maybe to Arkansas State, maybe to Troy, even though they were building. But I think we pull off some upsets. So I think maybe a Wake Forest. I mean, they're prime for they're not great. I mean, that's an ACC team we need to beat this season. And God forbid, look, I said that on X. I said we have to beat, Wake Forest. And someone responded, well, what if we don't? Is the season in the garbage? And I'm like, who said that? I'm just saying we gotta beat them. Like, it's there. It's right for the picking. I'm not saying our season's in the can if we don't beat them. I mean, if we come out of lose to Tulane, lose to Wake Forest, but we're 2-2 at that point, or 3-2 at that point, okay, well, whatever. Then you have a more manageable schedule. So I think we'll lose. I think we'll end up losing one or two games that we should have won, and maybe winning 1 or 2 games that we should have lost. But I think at the end, again, 8-4 to me is where we end up.
It's a good pick. I get a kick out of, like, whenever you mention, like, we have to beat Wake Forest, you have always that one or two fans that are like, what do you mean we have to beat Wake Forest, Nick? Does that mean that we just just quit our fandom because
Well,
you said we have to be Wake Forest?
It's like the tailgating thing when the Greeks or students were upset because they put it up for sale and then all of a sudden it's all sold out, and some students, they were upset, and we were trying to figure out what's going on. I think Rage and Review tweeted something out like, "Oh, that's interesting." They didn't connect, right? They didn't connect with the Greeks or whatever, and then you get bashed because, God forbid, this was sent out. They got an email about it, and they should have taken action. Well, we're not saying anybody was in the wrong. We're just trying to figure out what happened. Like, where was the disconnect?
And I do want to say
People
that
need to
our fans.
pause.
Like,
Pause.
guys,
We're not accusing
relax.
anything. Yeah.
Relax. Calm down. Okay. We're not trying to rile anybody up. When that went down, so basically, for everybody who's wondering, they're doing a new model in student tailgating. You got the open tailgate space, and you've got designated 10 by 10 spaces in the tailgates if students want them, instead of having to do like the overall tailgating. So what happened was, apparently they sent an email out in early August to the Greek organizations, to student organizations, and the students basically sold out of the tailgating spots within a week, I believe it was, of getting the email. Well, there were a few Greeks who didn't check their email, or, I mean, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay. August 1st, I wasn't checking my email. Okay. But if the emails were sent, maybe they should have checked. Okay. There is a sense of responsibility there. I'll give them that. But some of the students were like, well, wait a minute. We didn't get an email, or how come we didn't get notice that this happened? And all of a sudden you got some fans that are like, oh, y'all are just going after the university. You should have read the email, and it went after everybody. And because at Rage and Review, our reaction was, man, why are, okay, they sold out a student tailgate. Great. Or student tailgating. That's great. Why are some of these students upset about it? What happened? So I tweeted out on the Rage and Review account, what's going on? Like, I want to hear some crazy reactions here. There's people that are happy and people that are mad about this. Usually when you see something sold out, it's a good thing. I'm kind of like, what happened? And so we were told that, basically overall there was an email sent, and some of the students didn't check their emails, and they sold out of the tailgate spot. And maybe now the students can check their emails to make sure that they get a tailgate spot next time. But some of these people are like, oh, you'll always want to bash the university for stuff. Well, I just want to respond to that. Okay. Do I think some of the bashing of the school is unnecessary? Yes. But how many times, and I'm playing devil's advocate, Nick, because you've been around a long time. How many times have we had the rug pulled under our feet by bad decisions at the university? How many times? A lot. So I'm
count.
So I don't want to bash the school, because it's a new era, it's a new age, it's a new way of communicating and things like that.
It's a clean slate. It's
But
a new season. It's the opportunity for things to be made right. Right.
But exactly. And look, I give credit where credit's due. The administration has done a good job reaching out to fans. I know that they're really, really pushing on certain social media initiatives. I know they're doing more meet and greets. Great. But again, the reality is, and I hope people are listening to this, and this is not a bad thing, okay? It's something people can learn off of. You have a lot of fans out there that have been around for 30 or 40 or 50 years that have had the rug pulled under their feet one too many times, and they're still around. But the reality is that they still turn, they kind of jitter a little quicker at you, because of the fact that in the past they've had the Lucy's pulled the football from Charlie Brown one too many times. So don't get upset if fans kind of get a little quick reaction, Oh, look who showed up. Our good friend, J. Cole Jagno.
He big timed us. He didn't want to come on. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I don't feel love. It's okay.
You just don't like us anymore. Actually, no, to everybody wondering, look, Josh is taking time to spend with his family. He's kind of stepped away a little bit. Nick and I is pretty much going to take the majority of Rage and Review this year. Josh will peep his head in every once in a while, call into the post games and talk baseball every once in a while. But Josh is taking Josh is pretty much
Josh is a smart man.
Yeah, he stepped away. We are a glutton for punishment. Josh was like, you know what? I don't want to make myself miserable anymore, so I'm gonna step away, which is okay. We still love you, Josh. We still love you.
I got you to make me miserable, Jared.
That's right. So I guess I have to do the double whammy there, right, Nick? But anyway, so we're talking logistics here. I do want to talk a little bit about this weekend's game, not just the game itself on the field, but the events surrounding the game. So Obviously, there's a lot of construction going on at Cajun Field right now. Of course, the entire home side or the west side is completely closed off. Just be aware if you were to go to the game this weekend to just kind of watch out on where to park, where to walk. There are some construction zones. There are some cautionary areas. Just to let you know, this year, as some of you or most of you already know, the stadium's pretty much going to be a bold stadium outside of the home side. Stadium capacity this year is officially 25,000. So it's going to be a 25,000 seat stadium, which means, I mean, even if you have 18, 19,000, it's going to be almost pretty full. Tickets are still available this weekend for the Grambling game, but I would get them sooner than later because Grambling does travel. And also they're bringing their marching band. So anytime a SWAC school or an HBCU brings their marching band, it's almost like a event in itself. So if you don't want to watch the football game, just go for the Grambling marching band. And of course, I got to give a shout out to the Pride of Acadiana. I've seen they've been practicing hard, looking at social media. I'm sure they're going to have a great performance as well. But anytime another school brings their marching band over, I always get kind of curious to see what they're all about. I like to compare and contrast a little bit. And I know Grambling's going to put on a show. Again, a lot of Grambling, they call them Grambling Nights. A lot of Grambling Nights are going to be coming in from the Ruston area down to Acadiana to pull for their Tigers.
And great tailgaters, by the way.
Great tailgaters.
They're awesome.
Yes. They know how to have a good time. They're probably going to bring a ton of RVs. They travel. So if you want a good college football atmosphere, this is a good game to go to. Of course, it's opening weekend, but at the same time, you're playing against an in-state opponent who not only travels, but has a lot of pride in their school. So, and you'll see it up close. I remember Billy Napier's first game here in 2018. We played Grambling in the rain, and they brought a lot of fans. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Just a heads up, you're going to notice a lot of logistical changes inside the stadium. Most of your average season ticket holder is going to be sitting on the visitor side. You're also going to notice there's two large, man-made press boxes that are built where the student section was. The student section will be from sections 109 to 111 in the end zone. The marching band will be in the corner, I believe. I don't know. I don't remember if they were in the corner last year or not, but they will be in the corner this year. And there will be general admission, I believe, in the end zones, both end zones, as well as the hill on the north end zone. So there's going to be some shifting and moving around. But I expect with a decent crowd that the atmosphere should be great because of the fact that it's going to feel more full, Nick. Kind of like the old Teague used to be, when 2,000 fans would show up.
I would say Daryl just posted 80% chance of rain Saturday.
Bring a poncho.
If there's not a downpour at kickoff. A question, I don't know if you know this or not, or you may not, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but where will the broadcast cameras be? Will it be facing our fans, or will it be on our fan side facing the emptiness? I'm hoping it's facing the fans, right?
Honestly, Nick, I think it might have to be facing the emptiness on where the fans are sitting, because logistically speaking, you can't put in any equipment in the construction zone.
Yeah, that sucks.
I don't know if you can put anything in the construction zone.
Then you don't get the atmosphere. Then you don't see the fans, because it would look great on TV if you could show a full half the stadium. But I don't know, again, what if it's possible to put a camera out there, that would be tough. So
yeah, it's going to be tough. But just to let you know, parking gates 1 and 5 open at 8 o'clock. All parking gates will open at 2. Russo Park ticket office opens at 2 o'clock if you want to get game day tickets. And at 3:30, Cajun's Village, presented by Cajun Country Rice, open. So Cajun's Village will be a new tailgating area with all kinds of games. Games and activities such as basketball, obstacle courses, cornhole, and more. You can get all the young Raging Cajuns can get their face painted, get face tattoos. And that is actually a new fun, kind of like a fun area for the families and the younger crowds. They will be along Ryan Hart Drive next to Russo Park if you want to go check it out. So right by Russo Park, you can go to Cajun's Village, a new spot, as well as they have the stage, I believe. I'm not sure if they moved the stage a little bit over due to the construction. It won't be by the Oak. It'll be by the Oak, but not right by the Oak, if that makes sense. I want to say the stage. Yeah, the stage will be right next to Cajuns Village, like literally right in front of Russo Park. So yeah, the stage will be moved. I'm looking at the map right now. RV parking will be in the same spot. Lot E will actually be on the opposite side on West Congress and Cajun Dome Boulevard, behind the pretty much which is now the main entrance on the student side. Of course, you can get spots in lots C and D. There's a huge construction area where Lot A was last year, so just be aware of that. And Lot B is a lot smaller this year due to the fact that, of course, the big construction zone has pretty much closed off a good portion of the parking lot. So, again, there's going to be a little bit of changes. Student tailgating will be in the same spots. But I just wanted to reiterate that to everybody because there's going to be a lot of different moving parts and a lot of different logistics this season, just due to the fact that you have the construction. And the beauty of it is that as the season goes on, Nick, you can actually see the progress of the construction. I mean, look, they've come a long way since last December when they tore down the old upper deck. It looks beautiful so far. I mean, I've driven by it a few times. I know we've seen pictures, but the beauty of it is during the games, you'll actually get to see the progress from the Grambling game all the way to our final home game. You'll see how far that construction has come because they've really, really done a really good job with it so far.
Exciting stuff. And again, maybe when we're out there, maybe if I arrange a live pregame for Tulane in the RV lot, maybe we could get somebody from the construction team on because, we can't get anybody from the university on. So maybe we get somebody from the construction team on and tell us what's going on. That'd be kind of cool. I could probably arrange that.
Yeah, for sure, man. And this weekend, I just want to mention a little bit about the Grambling Tigers. Of course, they come out of the SWAC. New head coach Mickey Joseph making his debut as the head coach of the Tigers this weekend. Of course, Mickey Joseph has coached around. He's from New Orleans, Archbishop Shaw graduate. I actually have some family members that went to Shaw. He was, I believe, a former NFL player, if I'm not mistaken, too, Nick. Either a former player. I know he's coached like in 20 different big-time schools, and I want to say he's coached in the NFL. So he's made a name for himself. He's of course, his brother was Vance Joseph, former head coach for the Denver Broncos. And so, yeah, he's making his debut start. Grambling went 5-6 last year, which actually was kind of surprising because Grambling's actually been pretty competitive over the last couple of seasons. They didn't really have their best year last year. And of course they let go of their head coach. And so Mickey Joseph will be making his debut. Grambling is one of those type of teams you don't sleep on. But at the same time, I've yet to see, and I could be wrong, I don't think a Sunbelt school has lost to a team from the SWAC yet since the conference has been around for football. So let's hope that Saturday's not the first. Let's hope the Cajuns can take care of business. So before we move on to the Sunbelt football schedule, give me your predictions for this game, Nick.
A lot to little. I think we score in the high 40s. So I'll just throw out a 45 to 17.
You were close to my prediction. I say 45-10. I think the Cajuns win 45-10. I think you get I think the rushing attack is going to be pretty heavy in the first half, especially depending on the weather. I think Ben throws at least 2 or 3 touchdown passes. And I think in the second half, you'll see some backups in there. This is a great opportunity for our younger guys to get some play time. Hopefully we pull it away at halftime or at least early in the third quarter where we see some depth being shown. So I'm excited about it. And I'm really looking forward to the atmosphere. It's going to be weird, but at the same time, I'm kind of curious to see, again, a smaller capacity of a stadium, what that kind of crowd entails.
Well, hopefully there's nobody telling people to sit down and not yell. Because if they don't do that, it'll be loud, because
Right.
there's a lot of people packed into a smaller space. So
Sure.
Look, if it is true and they're pointed at the emptiness, I'm a little bit disappointed because I want to see the crowd and hopefully I get to see what that looks like. And of
No
course we'll
doubt.
be on for pregame, right? Will you be around?
It's going to be tough.
I'll be around for pregame for sure.
Let's
We'll
just
do a
say
pregame.
I'm making
excuse
some.
me, postgame, not pregame.
Post game, I should be okay. Post game,
Yeah,
I should be
post-game.
okay. That depends on if I have internet at the time with my certain moves that I'm making.
There's no
if you will.
excuses, Jerry.
I'll try. I'll even use a hotspot if I have to. We'll see. But yeah, expect Nick and I to be on the post game after the game Saturday night. Kickoff is at 7:00. Again, Cajuns take on the Grambling State Tigers from the SWAC. They will open up the season at Cajun Field. Again, capacity 25,000 this year as construction at Cajun Field continues. You can still get your tickets. You can go up to the gate and get your tickets on Saturday. The gates open at 2. Or I'm sorry, the ticket office opens at 2 at Russo Park. And of course, if you're not able to make the game, you can watch the game on ESPN Plus or listen to Jay, Cody, and Dawson on the call on Hot 107.9, 103.3 The GOAT, or 1420 a.m. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. Football season is officially back. But before we go talk about other sports, let's talk about the Sun Belt. Not just us, but other teams are opening up their conference, or should I say their football seasons. Let's talk about what's going on around the Sun Belt Conference. First of all, Louisiana Monroe, the ULM Warhawks will take on the Jackson State Tigers on Thursday, tomorrow night. Their head coach making his debut. I'm drawing a blank right now.
All I can think of is General Booty.
The starting quarterback for the ULM Warhawks. Yeah. That is, yeah. Brian Vincent. I'm sorry. Brian Vincent was making his debut as head coach. I know he brings a lot of excitement, brings a lot of energy. So it should be interesting to see what he can do for the Warhawks. Again, they open up against Jackson State. Let's see who else here. Tomorrow night, Jacksonville State will host Coastal Carolina. Kickoff will be at 7 o'clock. App State will open up against East Tennessee State at home in Boone. Georgia Southern, big home opener against the Boise State Broncos. Boise State will travel to Statesboro. Kickoff will be at 3 o'clock on Saturday. Old Dominion will be taking on South Carolina in Columbia. They will take on the Gamecocks. Kickoff will be at 3:15. And also Marshall will host Stony Brook on Saturday. They will take on Stony Brook, and kickoff will be at 4 o'clock. South Alabama will take on American Athletic Conference foe North Texas in Mobile. Kickoff will be at 4 o'clock. Arkansas State will host Central Arkansas in Jonesboro. Kickoff will be at 6 o'clock. Nevada, who had a close loss to SMU the other night, will travel to Troy to take on the defending Sun Belt champion Troy Trojans. Kickoff will be at 6 o'clock in Troy. Southern Miss will travel to Kentucky to take on Lexington to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. Kickoff will be at 6:45. Georgia State will travel, a mile up the road to take on Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, huge win in Ireland against the Florida State Seminoles. So they kind of surprised or shocked the world last week, surprised the country. Georgia State will open up against the Yellow Jackets, again, right down the road. It'll be like the battle for Atlanta on Saturday. Kickoff will be at 7 o'clock. JMU will travel to Charlotte to take on the Charlotte 49ers. Kickoff will be at 7 o'clock. And of course, again, Louisiana will host Grambling at 7 o'clock at Cajun Field. Last but not least, rounding out the Sun Belt slate, the Texas State Bobcats will host the Lamar Cardinals in San Marcos, Texas. Kickoff will be at 7 o'clock. So again, Coastal Carolina at Jacksonville State tomorrow. ULM hosting Jackson State tomorrow. East Tennessee State at App State on Saturday. Boise State at Georgia Southern. Old Dominion at South Carolina. North Texas at South Alabama. Stony Brook at Marshall. Central Arkansas at Arkansas State. Nevada at Troy. Southern Miss at Kentucky. Georgia State at Georgia Tech. JMU at Charlotte. Grambling against the Cajuns. And, of course, Lamar at Texas State. I don't know about you, Nick, but like the first real Thursday of college football, do you ever notice there's like 30 games and they're all exciting games? You always have those 1 or 2 games with like massive upsets where you least expect it. I'm actually looking forward to tomorrow night just for that reason. Like who's going to upset who, or what are we going to look like in conference for our 2 games?
Well, first of all, tomorrow night is Wednesday, so you're looking for Thursday.
I'm sorry. My days are but since summertime, yeah, you're right. It's Thursday. My days are all.
But regardless, no, I get it, and I will get pumped up all day to watch as many games as I possibly can, and then I'll fall asleep at 7 o'clock. So, look, you were going down the list of games that are taking place. We're gonna blink, and it's gonna be the end of the season. So I just want to take in every moment as early as I can. So definitely we'll be watching a lot of football this weekend, and I'll probably on Monday be ready for a break.
It's true. It's very true. And look, and we got games I think we have games on Monday. And then we'll talk about it all
it's
over
Labor
again.
Day. I forgot about Labor Day. Yeah. So
And we're going to talk about it all over again for Kennesaw State on Tuesday or Wednesday. So yeah, and it's almost like rinse, recycle, repeat, and that's how it is football season. Like you said, in a blink of an eye, it's going to be over, but might as well enjoy it while it lasts. So anyway, that's going to do it for the football segment. Real quickly before we go, let's talk a little bit of Raging Cajun soccer. So Raging Cajun athletics is officially underway. The soccer season started a few weeks ago. Coach Chris McBride, got to give a shout out, fan of the pod, head coach of our women's soccer team. They actually started the season with a win against McNeese 2-1, and then they tied Louisiana Tech at home 0-0 before beating Middle Tennessee by a score of 5-1 here in Lafayette at the Home Bank Soccer and Track Complex. And then again, another tie against the Florida Atlantic Owls this past Sunday. Cajuns will travel on Thursday night to take on Northwestern State. Their kickoff will be at 6:30 before coming back home on Sunday. Following the lead of football, they will take on Grambling on Sunday at 5 p.m. At the Home Bank Soccer and Track Complex. Overall record for the Cajuns right now, 2-0-2. So even with 2 draws, they're still undefeated. So let's hope that keeps going. Volleyball officially starts their season this weekend. Coach Christy Gray and the ladies, they had an exhibition match against Tulane at Fogelman Arena last Friday. They lost 3-1, but they will open up the Sawyer Camillo Memorial Classic starting on Friday against Jackson State at OK Long Gym. The game will start at 6 o'clock. They'll also take on Murray State. Nico Yanko, athletic director at Murray State, take on his Racers on Saturday at 2 o'clock at OK Long. And, of course, rounding out the Sawyer Camillo Classic on Sunday, Cajuns will take on UT Arlington on Sunday at 11 a.m. So good luck to Coach Christy Gray and the volleyball team. Let's go 3 for 3 this weekend. Nick, I don't know about you, man, but I had a good time tonight. Football season's here. Cajun athletics is underway. So much to talk about for the next 10 months. Get your rest because it's happening. It's here.
yeah, I had to knock off the cobwebs a little bit. I mean, it's been a while since we've done this. So no, it's great to be back in the seat. I know we have a lot of exciting things going on this season. Look forward to the post game. That is always some of our best content. So all in all, just excited for the season again. Hoping for 8 wins. That's hopefully the low end. Maybe we can get 9 or 10. But very excited and ready for the Cajuns to take the field once again in 2024. Hard to believe we're here, but we're here. So let's enjoy it.
Here it comes. Here it comes. I look forward to seeing all of our fellow Cajun fans on Saturday at Cajun Field. Go out there, try to stay dry if you can, but if not, go have some fun, go tailgate, go hang out with your friends who you've missed all summer since baseball and softball ended. Next 10 months, Cajun athletics fully underway. So just like them, so is Raging Review. We'll be back next week, or should I say Saturday, after the Grambling game, hopefully with a Cajuns W. If you like what we do, please like, subscribe. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. You can listen to us on iTunes as well as Spotify. Got to show love for all of our platforms, and we want to thank you, the Cajun fans, for showing love to us. That's going to do it for tonight. Again, see you Saturday night after a hopeful Cajuns W. For Nick, I'm Jerry. We are the Raging Review Podcast. In the words of the late, great Big Dave Thibodeau, bye, we out of here. See you this weekend for more Raging Review. Go Cajuns!